Welcome to Synthetic Worlds, where we unravel the darkest mysteries of our forgotten past and the terrifying truths hidden beneath. In 1911, miners in Nevada's Lovelock Cave unearthed remains that defied all logic, revealing skeletons standing over 10 feet tall. These were not anomalies. They were a distinct race, possessing massive frames and distinct red hair that survived centuries of decay. Local Paiute legends spoke of the Site-Ka, a tribe of red-haired cannibalistic giants who waged war against their smaller human neighbors. For generations, historians dismissed these stories as mere myths until the physical evidence was pulled directly from the dry cave floor. Artifacts discovered alongside the bones included sandals 15 inches long, suggesting a foot size impossible for any known human ethnic group. However, shortly after the discovery, these artifacts were collected by prestigious institutions and seemingly vanished from the public eye forever. Rumors persist that the Smithsonian institution systematically destroyed or hid thousands of giant skeletons discovered across North America during this era. Why would science hide this? Because the existence of a giant race shatters the accepted narrative of linear, gradual human evolution. To protect the established timeline, anomalies that cannot be explained are often discarded, labeled as hoaxes, or dumped into the ocean. Whistleblowers have alleged that barges full of giant bones were towed out to sea, sinking the evidence to the crushing depths. Newspaper archives from the early 20th century are filled with reports of these finds, yet modern textbooks remain completely silent today. But let us look closer at the biology of these beings, for they were far more terrifying than simply tall humans. Many accounts describe a genetic trait known as double dentition, 2 rows of teeth designed not for grazing but for crushing. This dental structure suggests a diet that required processing incredibly tough material, possibly including the bones of their prey, us. Another recurring feature in ancient art and skeletal reports is polydactyly, the presence of 6 fingers on each hand and foot. This was not a mutation, but a racial characteristic, granting them superior dexterity and grip strength to wield massive primitive weapons. They were the apex predators of the ancient world, and early humans were likely forced into caves to escape being hunted. To support such a frame, their physiology had to be radically different. Mere scaled-up humans would collapse under their own weight. This brings us to the physics of their existence. How could such massive biological entities walk the Earth without heart failure? The answer lies in the ancient atmosphere. Evidence suggests Earth once had a barometric pressure twice as high as today. In this hyperbaric environment, oxygen levels reached 35%, saturating the blood and allowing for massive growth across all species. This explains how dinosaurs grew so large. The dense air provided buoyancy and fueled their metabolic needs effortlessly. For the giants, this meant their hearts didn't need to work as hard to pump blood to their towering heights. Scientists analyzing air bubbles trapped in ancient amber confirm these atmospheric conditions, proving a world perfectly suited for giants. But then, the world changed. A cataclysm, perhaps a comet impact or solar shift, stripped away the dense protective atmosphere. As the pressure dropped and oxygen levels plummeted, the very environment that sustained the giants turned into their worst enemy.
Gravity suddenly felt twice as heavy. Their hearts struggled to pump blood vertically, and their movements became slow and labored. The smaller humans, however, were adaptable. We required less oxygen and less energy, giving us a sudden evolutionary advantage. The giants began to starve. Their massive bodies burned energy too fast for the new world to replenish, weakening them. Realizing their oppressors were vulnerable, humans likely united, using their numbers to hunt down the dying gods of the past. They retreated into caves to preserve moisture and escape the harsh sun, eventually dying out and leaving only bones behind. But the memory of their reign did not vanish. It was etched into our genetic code, a trauma passed down through generations. This leads us to the uncanny valley theory. Why do we feel instant revulsion towards things that look human but aren't? Evolutionary psychology suggests we only develop instinctive fears towards things that posed a genuine threat to our ancestors' survival. The uncanny valley is likely a lingering survival instinct, warning us that the entity approaching is a predator, not kin. These beings looked like us, but their movements were wrong, their size was wrong, and their intent was lethal. We fear the human-like monster because for thousands of years we were on the menu of a superior human-like species. Every culture on Earth has myths of giants. The Bible has Goliath, the Greeks had Titans, and the Norse had Jotun. Are these merely stories, or are they the fragmented historical records of a time when we were not the masters? The Lovelock skulls are said to be in a private storage facility in Winnemucca, Nevada, kept away from public scrutiny. Why hide them? Perhaps acknowledging them would force us to admit that we are not the first advanced civilization here. This theory also solves the mystery of megalithic structures. Stones weighing thousands of tons were perhaps mere bricks to them. We marvel at how ancient humans moved these rocks, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were built by those with the strength. If giants existed, the impossible architecture of the ancient world suddenly becomes explained by simple biology and brute force. As we gaze at the stars, we must also look down at the earth beneath our feet and question everything. The earth is a graveyard of empires, not just human empires, but biological dynasties that rose and fell before we wrote. The evidence is there, etched in stone, buried in caves, and locked away in the basements of our museums. They were real, they were powerful, and ultimately they were defeated by the relentless march of time and changing climate. We walk on their bones today, oblivious to the fact that we inherited the earth only because the giants fell. But in our nightmares they return. The uncanny valley ensures we never forget the face of our ancient predators. From Easter Island to the mounds of Ohio, the silent sentinels of stone bear witness to a truth we deny. History is written by the victors, and we, the small, the numerous, the adaptable, are the victors of this war.
Imagine the tragedy of their end. Rulers of the world reduced to hiding in high mountains, gasping for thin air. This aligns with legends of Yeti and Sasquatch, perhaps the degenerate feral descendants of a once great civilization of giants. Could these cryptids be the final devolved remnants of the giants, living in the shadows of the world they owned? The biological diversity of the past was far greater than we admit. We were just one of many humanoid experiments.
Genetic testing on some ancient remains has shown markers that do not fit into the known human tree of life. Researchers who push too hard often find their funding cut, their careers ruined, or their discoveries confiscated by government agencies. The Powell Doctrine of the 19th century explicitly aimed to downplay ancient history to justify the manifest destiny narrative. Indigenous oral traditions have preserved the truth for thousands of years, while Western science has arrogantly ignored their validity. The war was won not with muscle, but with fire, tools, and the collective ability of humans to work together. And so, the Age of Giants ended. The atmosphere thinned, the temperatures shifted, and the monsters turned into myths. Nature reclaimed their cities and their bones. Hills and mounds across the landscape may be more than just geological formations. The burial mounds of North America have yielded countless reports of giant skeletons, quickly whisked away by authorities upon opening. Abraham Lincoln himself once said, "The eyes of that species of extinct giants whose bones fill the mounds of America." Even presidents acknowledged their existence before the scientific censorship machine went into full effect in the 20th century. The evidence is overwhelming if you look at the aggregate data rather than isolated incidents dismissed by mainstream archaeology. We invite you to do your own research, dig into the archives, read the old reports, and decide for yourself. Are we living in a synthetic world where history is manufactured to keep us safe from the terrifying truth? What else is hidden behind the locked doors of the Smithsonian? What other chapters of human history have been erased? Perhaps there was a time of peace, a golden age before the resources dwindled and survival became a zero-sum game. But nature is cruel. When the environment shifted, the alliance broke, and the giants became monsters in our eyes. We carry the victory of that war in our blood. We are the survivors of a planetary struggle for dominance. But be warned, evolution is cyclical. Conditions on Earth may change again, and what is buried may rise. With modern genetic engineering, are we inadvertently trying to recreate the very monsters that once nearly drove us to extinction? Occasionally, the genes resurface. Gigantism today is a medical condition, but perhaps it is a genetic echo of our past. There are still thousands of unexplored caves in Nevada and around the world. Who knows what still lies waiting? The next discovery could happen tomorrow. Will it be covered up again, or will the truth finally break free? Lovelock Cave is just one piece of the puzzle. When you connect it to global myths, a clear picture emerges. We live on a planet of mysteries. The deeper we dig, the more we realize how little we truly know. Do you believe the official narrative, or do you feel the pull of the forbidden history whispering in your bones? The truth is out there, buried under layers of dirt, time, and deliberate deception. Keep your eyes open. Thank you for journeying with us into the shadows of the past. The world is stranger than you can imagine. If you enjoyed this exploration, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us uncover more secrets of our reality. Check out our other videos where we dive into lost civilizations, simulation theory, and the unexplained phenomena of Earth. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, history is not just what is written, but what has been forgotten. Join us next time on Synthetic Worlds as we continue to question reality. Subscribe now and never stop seeking the truth.